Daddy Show. Step off.
It's time for the main event.
Hey, what is up? Welcome back to the program, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and this right here is the one and only Tom Clark's main event. We'll get it. What's up, kids? Welcome back to the program. Happy Friday to you, one and all. Your boy needs a haircut. It's real. Look how long that hair is, man. You know why it's not been cut yet? Because if I cut it, I lose my strength. And then I can no longer podcast. It's a very real thing. My guest co-host is probably laughing because he's the man that if you cut his hair, it's over. His strength's gone. His career is over. The ladies will no longer speak to him. His boys will leave him behind. You'll never recognize him. He'll be washed up, bleeding in a gutter somewhere. Homeless, penniless, morose. There's his introduction. I told him I'd do it better for him, except this time it's not so great. Anyway, we'll get him in a second. Happy Friday, kids. Hope everybody out there is doing great. Before we start doing anything, please hit those emojis. I see an emoji of the dude hugging a heart. Isn't that the coolest thing ever? Smash the like button for me, kids. That'd mean loads to me. Let's make this happen. Something that I don't do often enough. Is thank my sponsor, who's also my producer, Mr. Nathan Workman, who's on vacation this week. If you listen to the 6M podcast, you will hear his advertisement. He's an attorney, and yes, there is such a thing as attorneys who are not crooks and lying thieves and scumbags. He's actually a great friend of mine. So depending on where you live in this country, if you need legal assistance, he might be your guy. So there you go. Shout out to Nate Dogg, wherever he is. Hopefully having fun with the family. Me, I'm here working. I'm on the clock, working for a living in a working, taking what they given because I'm working for a living. Let's say hello, Carlos Martinez, I'll get it. What's going on, dude? Ray All Day is back. I look 12. Ray, listen, I know you flatter me, dude, but 12. Come on now. Jennifer Pitcock Rojas. Danny Rojas. Are you a fan of Ted Lasso? I love Ted Lasso. I'm telling you, I'm this close to doing a Ted Lasso podcast. Shane, was that not the funniest gif you've ever seen? That was the coolest thing ever, right? Chris with a K, good to see you. Jeffrey, what's going on? What's up, Greg Lancaster? How you doing, my friend? Brandon, what's going on, dude? What's up, E? Hey, guys, sorry I wasn't here last week. COVID. That's no BS. That's twice I've had the COVID this year. Never got it through the height of it, and now I can't stop getting it. What's up, Robbie? How you doing, man? Good to see you. Having a staycation, I see. Thanks for watching, dude. Tim Gonzalez, the mighty Timothy, the mighty Gonzalez. I don't have a name for you. I'll work on it. Yeah, dude, the NWO podcast was the first episode of the 6M podcast. You did a deep dive. Thank you, Tim. That was the first episode. Can you hear how the show's changed from now till then, right? From then till now? Brino, back in the house. Brino, you haven't been here in a month. We took your name. We take names. It's on the chalkboard. It's over there. You're in trouble. Do you remember that taking names in school bit? You saw your name on the board. You were in trouble. All right. I'm going to quit talking to everybody. Y'all leave me alone. I'm going to say hello to my guest. I'm kidding. You can keep talking. Ladies and gentlemen, the man without whom, well, I'd still be doing the show. The man without whom today's show with a guest co-host wouldn't be possible. And the man who is the backbone, the lifeblood, the essence of the Untitled Wrestling podcast. The one that all of his other co-hosts know that his back is killing him. Want to know why? Because all he does is carry the show every day. The creative force, inspiration, and yes, the very heart of the UWP. His co-hosts will love that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, great friend of the show, Jay Luft. What's up, Jay?
I think I'm going to get some heat for that one.
Probably so.
I am. It's all good. They'll see the funny side. I'm all good. I'm all good.
Doing good. Great, man. Yeah, I you can blame me for that, and I in turn will tell them that you made me say those things.
Yeah, the checks in the post.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear. Man, so how's your week been, by the way? How's things going for you?
It's been good. I'm a little bit wrestling though. There's been a little bit on, hasn't there? Not a huge amount, just a lot.
Just a lot, all the time. I'll apologize to everyone in advance of the coughing fit that I'm liable to take and the scratchy throat and whatever. Can't clear my throat for some reason, so apologies heading in. Lots to talk about here today, Jay. Kids, you know Jay. Jay, you know the kids. Please, kids, make Jay feel welcome. We'd very much appreciate it. Jeffrey says, welcome back, Jay.
Thank you.
Eric Jackson in the house. What's up, dude? Good to see you, my friend. Faye Divine. Faye, you've got like the best name ever. Is she a UWP fan there, Jay?
She's a UWP co-host. She does the news with me and Ben.
Faye, you're not gonna believe what Jay made me say today.
She won't believe it. That's the thing.
Thanks everybody for watching. Please smash the like button. Do me a favor. Share this show on your Facebook page. That would mean loads to me and Jay. That'd be awesome if you guys could do that. Please and thank you. Lots to talk about here today. Oh, excuse me. Lots to talk about here today. Episode number 311 of the podcast. Pales in comparison to some and darn good by other examples. Anyway, we're doing what we can do. We're 11 weeks removed from the 300th anniversary celebration. I like to do that. It's fun. We got lots to talk about here today, Jay. You and I ran down a little bit up before we went live here today. We're going to kick off with, it's sad news, but I can't be too sad because this guy leaves behind such a legacy of memories, a career to talk about for days on end. I'm going to miss his, F. Hogan posts. I'm going to really miss him, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Someone needs to pick the mantle up for that one.
Someone's running his account as we speak, but I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's a family member or I don't know who it is, but someone's tweeting in all caps. So I would hope out of respect to his memory, maybe they'll keep it up. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
So, yes, we lost the Iron Sheik this week. 81 years old, I think he was.
Yeah, that's right.
Same
birthday as me.
What's that now?
Same birthday as me.
Oh, is he? Really?
Yeah. Him and MJF.
Man, what a coincidence. And to be a wrestling fan, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what are your memories of the Sheik? I mean, what is it? What's your opinion of him? I mean, what is it that you take away from like his career in general?
So for me, like more kind of stuff after wrestling where he became kind of like a sort of like internet legend. Like I was familiar with his work. Obviously, like he was in the Gimmick Battle Royal. So that was when I was kind of growing up. He won the Gimmick Battle Royal at Mania 17. And he was, there was, oh God, what was it? He was General Adnan, was it? Or Colonel Mustafa? Colonel Mustafa. But I wasn't really super familiar with the Iron Sheik until like I was much older. And like going back and watching promos of his and stuff like that, where he's doing like the sort of barbell stuff. Just a massive character, isn't he?
He is. Larger than life personality. He's that, when they did the WWF cartoons and whatnot, like the animated shows or whatever that was they did with those guys, he was one of those characters that perfectly translated because he was so over the top and, what, dude, do you think, because I was thinking about when you were saying those things about him, do you think he's going to be remembered more for his career or for his post-career? Because I kind of think you could call it either way.
I think it could be a bit of both. I think I'd like to think people are going to like kind of like seek out Iron Sheik matches and seek out some of his actual wrestling work. But like, the first thing that kind of like springs to mind for me is when Howard Stern and Kurt Angle prank call him. And Kurt's like, oh yeah, I could tap you out in the Olympic, Sheik. And Sheik's just getting angrier and angrier. And Kurt's is like, no, I'd beat you. I wouldn't break a sweat. I like stuff like that with Sheik. It's like I think that's what kind of like draws a lot of people in nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. And his Twitter's a riot.
Oh yeah,
I would go home and just share tweets with people I know. Just say, hey, look at this. Like, you know what I mean? Just because it's so funny, man. And I'm not gonna try to remember any off the top of my head, but man, just such entertaining stuff, dude. Didn't he have he had both of his knees replaced or something? Because I don't know how he was walking, honestly, because he looked like he was barely getting around for a lot of years there.
he had the Zimmer frame, didn't he? Like near the end.
Yeah. There was a story. Who was it that he was telling? I heard this somewhere online yesterday, that he was showing that he could put his foot on the floor and move his foot forward independent of the calf muscle. Like he could move his leg and the calf muscle would stay still as if they weren't even attached.
Jeez.
And I'm like, God,
Sounds bizarre.
I know, right? Just the wear and tear. Brendan says The Rock did say he stole Jabroni from the Iron Sheik. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Sugar Shane says Iron Sheik Nikolai Volkov is a great heel tag team. Couldn't agree more.
Was that Urban Legend as well, isn't it? That Sheik, I'm sure Sheik's confirmed it. That Vern Gagne offered him like $50,000 to break Hogan's leg when it was like in that Hogan match.
I've heard that too. Yeah, because Hogan was leaving the territory, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure it was the actual match where Hogan was set to win the belt.
Gotcha. Oh, yeah. My bad.
Because it was like corporate sabotage, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he's Vern was, it's a whole other podcast, right? But Vern was set in his ways. I remember the story that Shawn Michaels told about he and Marty were pitching the idea of they were going to call themselves the Midnight Rockers. And Vern Gagne was having a hard time with this because he's like, what are we talking about, like a rocking chair? And he and Marty looked at each other like, no, Vern, like rock and roll. Like Vern had no idea what they were talking about. And, can't take anything away from Vern. The guy was an accomplished amateur wrestler and a solid pro wrestler. And his school was tough as nails. But set in his ways, man, Yeah. Those stories about bounties and whatnot, that stuff is legendary, right? Legendary. But condolences, well wishes, and good vibes go out to the Iron Sheik's family and friends and fans. He will be missed for sure. Let's talk about Roman's reign. It's just hit the 1,000 day mark. Tell me why this is a good idea or why it's not a good idea, in your opinion.
I think it's a good idea because it's that they'd got close enough that it was like, well, they might as well now. They might as well drag it out to the 1,000 just so they can say they've done it. Just so they can say he's the longest reigning champion of the modern era. Even though he already was, but 1,000 days is very, very hard to beat. So for that, it's a good idea. I mean, it's pretty much like that's cemented Roman's legacy if it wasn't already. I think it's a bad idea because for me, I feel like the story's been not even the story. The story's been good. The reign itself has been stale for a very long time, in my opinion. And they had the perfect opportunity with Cody, then the month before with Sammy. They've had so many good opportunities though for Roman to drop that belt where it's like, okay, this is it. And I think it's a testament to how much the company believes in Roman that they'd do that and they'd hold it off for 1,000 days because let's face it, they didn't even give Hogan that.
Yeah. I'm so back and forth on this personally because the story they're telling takes time. And, what's the one thing that we often criticize that company for over the years was that they rushed through things, that they didn't take their time with this. They weren't telling a story. It was all promos and it was all, cheap wins or whatever. What's this mean? What's that mean? Then when they have a story that it's not just two guys, but a cast of characters, and you're able to bring other people in and give them something to do. And then it becomes a circle of characters that can play into other storylines as well, that we all complain about it. I'm not complaining about it. I think it's great TV, but I'm with you. I mean, has it gone on too long? I mean, it's Ray says, I think he will retire with the belt. He never fights, but he gets over. I mean, I don't know if he's going to retire anytime soon, but he's been talking about doing Hollywood and whatnot. Jeffrey says the whole Tribal Chief story was getting stale, and we've been begging for something new. Yeah. I mean, dude, what about this idea that first of all, real quick, before they put the bloodline together, all people talked about was they should put the family together, Tom, and call it the bloodline or something. And fans had this idea way before it actually happened on TV. And then it happened. And from the moment it happened, everybody's like, well, eventually, Tom, they're going to turn and stuff. And now we've got this thing with Jimmy and Jay. Where do you see this going at this point?
I think it's a vehicle to get that belt onto Solo Sikoa eventually.
Really?
I feel like they've done enough subtle little things to make Solo feel like an absolute threat to Roman. Even though like there was that thing a couple of weeks ago where like on Raw, Roman went to like admonish one of the Usos and he knocked into Solo and he absolutely like freaked out and was like, "Oh God, I'm so sorry." And Solo just shot him a look. He didn't even move. He just like shot him a look at his shoulder and then at Roman. And Roman looked like he'd seen a ghost. I feel like the end game should be maybe not Solo taking the belt off Roman, but definitely Solo kind of kicking Roman out of the head of the table and taking his place at it. I think that's kind of the long game for it.
So you envision the Usos, Jay saves his brother at some point or turns with his brother, and then Solo turns with them, and collectively they throw Roman out, or what do you think?
I don't know. I think because the Usos have like turned on Roman now, and then Solo like sided with Roman. I think that they could go down the road of Roman forcing them back into the bloodline, or they could go like down the road of kind of like Solo putting everyone in line. There's potential for a lot of things. I do feel like it's starting to kind of not peter out, but it's starting to wind down a bit towards like its end game. But it's just whether Solo's taking the belt off Roman or if they're gonna take the belt away from Roman and then have Solo like feud with Roman after the fact, because Roman's gonna need something to do when he loses that belt.
I think that's when the time off will come into play. That would seem to make the most sense.
That's true.
Who beats him?
Finish the story. Brock Lesnar.
Are you serious? Or are you messing with me?
Oh no, I'm just messing with you. I think Cody's still feels like the logical choice, especially with Seth kind of being off with the workhorse belt now. That said, if Seth loses that belt, Seth's a really good choice to take it off Roman. They'd be my two. I think two dark horse picks would be Solo and Braun Breaker.
I think they're leading to Seth versus Roman. I think it's what they want to do. Seth
Unify the belts.
I don't know. Like they just introduced the flipping thing. Like, why would you? You know what I mean? I don't. But it's that company. How do you know? So many world titles, man. It's become boxing over there again. Like what was the one of the major beasts with boxing in this country was always that there was too many world titles. That there should have been one world championship, and then like Tyson unified 3 belts, I think, during his career. But there was like multiple world championships.
Yeah. They come close to getting to that a few years ago, didn't they?
Do you know what? I need to like really get back into boxing. There was at one point I was really starting to, I didn't watch like every event, but man, I really started to enjoy boxing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's
I'm
it's like
that
a
with UFC.
see. I've tried UFC. I'm not anti UFC, but I can't say I sit around watching it either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Finding time for these things is my issue. Chris with a K says next year to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. I heard Seth Rollins is going to get cashed in on at SummerSlam.
Oh, SummerSlam.
Could be. By the way, we just say hello, Marie. How are you?
I was thinking he might at Money in the Bank.
There you go.
But that's only like what, like I'm less than a month away.
Yeah, it's close, isn't it?
Yeah.
Josh says Roman is not my champion. Sorry, everyone. Who is your champion, Josh?
Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you start doing that, you can't stop doing that. Jeff says they will not combine the belts because they want titles defended on both shows by separate champions. Yeah, who knows what they want.
I mean, they said that last time they combined the belts and then they didn't uncombine them.
Right. Didn't uncombine them. That's a good way to put it. Let's jump around just a bit here, kids. AEW, Double or Nothing. Again, I was a bit ill this past week. My apologies for not being here. So we couldn't review the show. But we could talk about it some now. You and I were talking about our prediction show. By the way, it's live on Untitled Wrestling Pod, my prediction show for Forbidden Door, which has massively fell apart. Massively.
Yeah, that come out on Monday. Tom booking his own all-in card.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 of that starting soon. I need to get that all recorded this week.
Nice. I'll go on last. I'll go on the week before. No, I'm kidding. It's like Tom predicted that card perfectly.
I think I'm only doing a mini series for season 2 because of I messed up the timing on it.
That's good. So what's your biggest takeaways? We don't have to go through the card. What's your biggest takeaways from Double or Nothing? What did you enjoy the most? What did you maybe enjoy the least?
I think I enjoyed Anarchy at the Arena the most, which we all kind of expected to, didn't we? Just because it was chaos. I'd really enjoyed the Fatal 4-Way, the world title. I thought that was fantastic. I thought it was a really good spotlight for all the guys involved. Obviously, a couple of guys were like feeling a little bit not out of place, but like, why are they in the world title picture this soon? But I felt like everyone, especially Sammy Guevara, shone in that match. I really enjoyed what was it? The Battle Royal as well. That Swerve and Orange Cassidy stuff at the end was fantastic. As for stuff didn't really enjoy, I felt FTR and Lethal and Jarrett went a little bit too long. Like that, the last 5 minutes was fantastic. But the 50 and the built up to it was just like a slug. I wasn't too big on the way Hayter lost. I understand why she lost, but I wasn't too big on the way it was done. But I know why it was done like that as well.
Sure.
I feel like there was another match I wasn't that keen on, and I can't remember what it was, which means it's probably not important.
So Maria, I saw your comment. We've heard some of this.
Cole and Jericho, that's the match. Yes. They, considering like how well they had chemistry talking, they didn't have any chemistry at all in the match. I said to Ben on our podcast that it felt like literally Jericho just watched the match that Cole had with Aleister Black in NXT and went, well, that was a cool spot. I want to do that, and I want to do that spot as well. And Aleister Black or Malachi Black now could do that because he's a lot younger than Chris Jericho and he's a phenomenal athlete. Not against Chris Jericho. It's just he's not as young as he once was.
Sure. So, my comment on this, because I've heard and seen a lot of feedback on that. The moment the match started, and you can kind of tell, and then, almost halfway through, like, yeah, right. Immediately, I said to myself, I may have said it out loud on my couch. This shouldn't have been an anything goes match.
No.
I think where the problem lie, excuse me, is adding in weapons, going outside the ring, taking time. If this had been a straight up wrestling match where they're trying to counter move for move, I think that the response would have been much greater, and I think the match would have been much better. You roll the dice when you introduce weapons into matches, even for Mox. And he's accustomed to going outside the ring and bleeding all over everybody, right? But you run the risk of losing the crowd, and or things get awkward with you and your opponent. Even if your timing's good, it just may end up. And for me, from where I'm sitting, that's what I saw, was that you're right. Chemistry was not there. But I actually believe it was because they weren't straight up wrestling.
Yeah, I felt like the feud was kind of rushed as well. Like, it went from like naught to like blood feud in like 3 weeks. And I get they wanted to just get the feud just out the way with, but that as well, like the fact that Roddy and Jericho had a similar match, which was like literally 2 weeks before, like there was always going to be comparisons to it.
That's fair. Let's segue now into Forbidden Door. Right now, there are 2 matches booked, and all of you has been talking about it.
Three soon, apparently. According to Fightful, which, yeah, I'm down for that.
And that's the Punk and Kenta, right?
Yeah, what if that's Punk's punishment for, like, Brawl Out? Just Kenta breaking his orbital bone. Just Kenta kneeing his face in. Yeah, I'd be okay with that. Yeah, so Dominion, they announced Okada and Danielson, didn't they? And I think I still haven't like recovered from that. Talk about a dream match. Jeez, that was the one when Danielson left out like WWE. I was like, right, well, we need to get him and Okada to happen like now. I'm glad they're doing it at Forbidden Door.
Yeah, 100%. Danielson and Okada is probably going to be the match of the year for any company, and it's all subjective. But if we're being honest with ourselves, this could very well end up being the match of the year. And then of course you got Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. Jay, I want you to tell the viewers here and people who will likely watch and or listen after the fact why they're silly beyond silly, and that's a polite word, kids, for suggesting that Okada and Danielson doesn't have a story behind it. I'm so sick of hearing this.
Well, they established that in that, like, more of a story in that vignette than they did with like all the matches that have just been kind of thrown together. Like, literally all Danielson had to say was, you talk about wanting to wrestle me, you talk about being the best in the world, and the litmus test for great. You're not the best unless you can beat me. And the fact that Okada, like in every interview he's done in the last 10 years, has said Danielson's my dream opponent. Danielson's like my dream opponent. So yeah, of course, there's the story. Okada really wants to wrestle Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson really wants to wrestle Kazuchika Okada. They're both dependent on what kind of style you like and what kind of stuff you're into. Like, I personally think Bryan Danielson's the best wrestler in the world. I know a lot of people who think Kazuchika Okada is. I know a lot of people who think someone completely different is. Like, two of the current best wrestlers in the world facing each other. It doesn't need a story. It's like a mega dream match.
I've said for
let them go an hour.
Let them go an hour. 100%.
Run it back at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, let them go an hour. I want them to go an hour, and when the hour's up, go, wait, that was an hour? I mean, it's
like the MJF match.
Yes, it's going to be smooth. For years, I've said that Okada is the best worker in this business until he retires. I just, and that's hard for that country because a lot of those guys work into their 50s. But Okada just, to be that smart about anything. Like you can look at him from I'm a fanboy for a second, kids. You can look at him from a distance and see, he just gets it. He just understands. Like he just completely understands. And I mean, Danielson does too, but like Okada just has this way of like, it's almost like, I call it court vision, like with NBA. You're bringing the ball down the court. You can see the players moving to position. You know what's going to happen. He already knows these things. Like it's to be that gifted and to be that talented, to be that smart is crazy.
Yeah, I think the thing with Okada, which makes him so great, which kind of goes unsaid a lot, is actual pacing. Like, talk about the actual, like, forget about the story, forget about like the moves, the actual pacing of the match. Like, it said all the time, Okada's got like the best 10 minutes in wrestling. Matthew does know Okada's in danger, Faye, because I've told him. Yeah, like the last 10 minutes of an Okada match is always like subscription viewing. Like, you don't necessarily need to watch the whole of an Okada match, just that last 10 minutes. But then if you did that, you'd be like, well, how the hell have they got to like this intensity? Like, he's so good at like a slow build and then just a sense of urgency. Whereas Danielson, he has that, but then he can make a match feel like it's minutes when it's been an hour.
Mm.
So if you put those two elements together, I really think, you said match of the year, I think it could be in the argument for an all-timer.
I'll take that.
Genuinely could. Obviously, we haven't had the match yet, and like, I know me and you were talking about Cole and Jericho being a match we were really excited for, and then it didn't quite land. But I think you get two guys as talented as that. As I say, I personally think Danielson's the best wrestler in the world. I know a lot of people who think Kazuchika Okada is. I know a lot of people who think other people are. Either way, when you get two of the greats in the ring together, you know you're in for something special 9 times out of 10.
100%. Sugar Shane says, Okada and Danielson is today what Hogan and Inoki was. I disagree, Shane. If you're talking about icon versus icon, I don't even think it's the same. I think because the issue with that is, if you had said Hogan versus Cena, if you see what I'm saying, like, I get where your comparison, how you make it, but for me, it would be like, I don't know what I would compare this to back in the day, because I was thinking about this the other day. Maybe I don't know, Bret Hart versus Rick, had Rick never left the South.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just for the like kind of like Americas and Japan thing, Bret versus Misawa or something like that.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that.
That was the first thing that kind of comes to mind for me. Just best technical wrestler from the States versus the best wrestler from Japan.
Mm-hmm. And we don't want to sell the second match short here.
No.
You and I both called this, by the way. It's the only one I got right. Well, and I got the wrong card.
I think round 3 is happening at All In.
There you go. I'll be back in the game.
Because Ospreay said, didn't he, in his promo, that I'm coming to your home. So it only makes sense if Kenny loses, or if they draw, or Even if Kenny wins, and then Ospreay's like, why don't you come to my house? But yeah, I mean, currently, like we were saying about how Okada and Danielson's probably going to be match of the year. Currently, for me, Omega and Ospreay is match of the year. So yeah, to get that again, I'm happy to hear it.
Oh man, Forbidden Door is going to be insanely fun. Insanely fun.
I feel like with this year's one, like obviously we've had those 2 matches announced, and we're possibly on the verge of this. I feel like this is what everyone was saying last year should have been. And that's not to take anything away from last year's, because last year's was probably the best pay-per-view of the year. But like when they announced it, I think everyone anticipated that it was just going to be dream match after dream match after dream match. And I think basically they've kind of gone, all right, well, we didn't do that last year. Because we had like a lot of people with COVID, and we just made it work with what we had. This year, where they've got a full strength roster on AEW side and a full strength roster on New Japan side, then I think we're just going to get a ton of dream matches thrown at us.
Yeah, and it should be. It should be a ton of dream matches. Jeffrey said, you think that jackwagon Callus. You calling him a jackwagon? That's awesome. That jackwagon. Will he interfere?
Apparently at Supercard of Honor, it was meant to be Ospreay versus Takeshita, wasn't it? Instead of Takeshita versus Willie Mack, and then Ospreay got hurt. I can't remember. Someone said to me, I think it might have been Faye actually, they wouldn't be surprised if Takeshita joined the United Empire. Because like there's been a few like little run-ins with Callis and Ospreay on Ospreay. Was it Ospreay's Twitter or Callis's? I think it was Callis's Twitter. Callis like said something, and it was like aimed at Ospreay, but it was straight after the betrayal on Kenny. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I wouldn't be surprised if this actually led to Callis and Takeshita like going over to the United Empire, and then potentially United Empire versus the Elite.
You know, United Empire have representatives in Australia, obviously, in New Japan, in Rev Pro. Yes? Yeah?
No, not anymore. Well, Great O'Khan.
Yeah, Great O'Khan. Yeah. But not in AEW. So
yeah, they've got Aussie Open.
Got what?
Aussie Open. They're signed to AEW now.
That's right. Forget what I said. but it still would make sense. And they've lost Dan Maloney, so they have another opening, right?
Yeah, and Takeshita and Aussie Open feud them with the Hung Bucks for like a couple of months. I wouldn't be against that.
With Kenta and Punk, kids, as Sandy in Germany just said. I don't listen. When Kenta first came back to New Japan, I think it was not a rough transition. That's a silly way to put it. It's his home country. It's his home turf for that company. But it felt as though it was acclimating back wasn't the easiest thing.
Well, he was a Noah guy anyway, wasn't he?
That's very true.
So he's obviously different, not different styles, but different like atmospheres, I guess you could say.
I think he's hit his stride with Bullet Club. Is he better with BC or no?
Yeah, I feel like New Japan really, really dropped the ball when Kenta attacked Naito after Naito won the belt, and I was like, all right, just hot shot it to Kenta. Like Kenta was like red hot when he did that, and they didn't have Kenta win. I was like, fair enough. I was like, okay, well, in that case, have Kenta win the G1. And I feel like Kenta has been like kind of the naily man of New Japan. Kind of what like Sanada was until he won the belt, where it keeps feeling like they're going to do something big with him, and then nothing happens. And he's just won the Strong title, hasn't he? A few months ago. So maybe that's like what they're going to build Strong around him, because they're going to start running that again. I wouldn't be upset if like they did more stuff with him, but I think Bullet Club, being in Bullet Club, is definitely the way forward, especially like the new Bullet Club.
And I saw Faye just said Kenta for BC leader. That group's Dave Finley's now. Dave's
David
running
Finley's
the show.
my leader.
Man,
He's good.
And that will take us to the next topic. Kids, gather around the old campfire and let your old daddy Tom tell you a story. Once upon a time, it was June 4th in Osaka-jo Hall in the land of the rising sun. A struggling young company who just started last year. I'm kidding. New Japan Pro Wrestling delivered Dominion. And this is one of those what I call oh my God in heaven. I really, really, Jay, enjoyed this show. I got
Same.
I don't know of anything that I went with. Dude, this whole show. I mean, Bullet Club picked up 3 new members. And, you know, Kevin Kelly continues to be one of the top play-by-play guys in this business, okay? And the fact that he put over, you know, Bullet Club tonight got a lot younger, a lot fiercer, a lot more, they're a lot hungrier. I'm like, that's perfect. Like, dude, was Dominion better than Double or Nothing in your opinion?
I think so, yeah. I think it was certainly a much more well-rounded show. There wasn't like the thing with Double or Nothing was I feel like if they had to move the card around a bit, it could have salvaged some of the stuff that wasn't great. Whereas with this, everything was like perfectly paced. Everything was like perfectly on the card, and every match, even matches where normally you kind of go, oh, it's another 8-man. Like that 8-man was fantastic, and it served the purpose of making Titan feel like a massive deal. Which, like, I as soon as he got into like the final 4 of Best of the Super Juniors, I was like, okay, if Speedball doesn't win, I want Titan to win. And he got to the final. I think he's got a really bright future in New Japan. He's fantastic.
Can we give Teton's gear a shout out from Dominion?
Oh yeah,
my God.
So some of the gear he was wearing during Best of the Super Juniors though as well was just like really good. He must have had like about 8 or 9 different sets.
On point. Gotta look your best, kids. It's not everything, but it's a lot. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this show. They've got their past on this show, they got their present, and they've got their future.
Yeah.
Dude, again, gear, look, there is something to be said. And I'll give you an example. Excuse me. Master Watto is turning into a good little worker.
Yeah.
And really came into his own this year. When they brought that kid back from Excursion and called him Mr. Watto with that, and I'm like, this is what you gave him? This is it? Master Watto, blue hair. What are we looking at? Now, this is all Tom's take. Maybe no one else agrees. But in my opinion, as a result of that, he did not catch fire. Okay?
Yeah.
Yota Tsuji comes back from Excursion. Yota Tsuji, Jay, looks like an effing star.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Doesn't he?
Yota Tsuji was, like, incredible on this show.
Yes.
Because I'd only seen him, like, when he'd done, like, stuff at, like, a Young Lion. Like, I think he did a match on Dark Elevation. He's done a little bit in the UK as well. My brother actually went on holiday to Mexico last year, and he went to a CMLL show, and Yota Tsuji was in a battle royal there. Got, like, eliminated within, like, a minute or two. He's like, oh, yeah, this massive Japanese guy. I don't know who he was. I was like, oh, yeah, he's going to be big. And then, like, what? 9 months later, he's main event in Dominion, the second biggest show of New Japan's year.
They deserve credit for the lighting and for the smoke and for the silhouette of him in the coat.
That entrance was fantastic.
Perfect. That smile that he gives. And when Chris Charlton said on commentary that smile is unsettling, I thought, That's the word.
Yeah.
It's unsettling. Like it's almost like the Joker or like a villain, like a comic book villain. He's just got this smile, and you're like, oh my God, that's freaking me out. I mean, and again, kids, I don't care. Think whatever you want to think. But like certain companies, they can't stay off the mic and it's all night long. No mic time in that match. And they told such an amazing story by just the wrestling and the commentary during the match. And at the end, when LIJ just walked off, Jay, I'm like, what just happened?
I think we're getting Tsuji versus Naito at Wrestle Kingdom. Do you?
I think so, yeah.
I said this on our podcast this week. I wouldn't be surprised if like Tsuji, Titan, and maybe Shingo formed like an offshoot of LIJ, and it's just like an LIJ civil war because Tsuji came in and he firmly positioned himself as the new leader.
Yeah,
he was telling them to do the pose with him and all that, and they were like, "Who the hell's this guy?"
Yeah.
And if you remember a year before when Titan debuted, he did the exact same thing.
He did.
So there's two guys who are already like outliers within the group. Shingo's the only other logical outlier for me. But yeah, it's cool because New Japan feels really exciting again.
It does.
It's like we talking about like stale, like that was something that felt really kind of like it had stagnated for such a long time for me. And then this week, Dominion happens, the amount of cool stuff that happened on that show. I mean, we're getting Danielson Okada. We've spoke about it already, but that happened on this show after a match that I never thought I'd ever see, which was Blackpool Combat Club and Shota Umino versus Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii. And that was an awesome match.
John and Claudio had a lot of fun in that match. You could tell.
Yeah. I think we're getting Claudio and Tanahashi either at Forbidden Door or Death Before Dishonor.
And they handed John two different microphones, and he's cursing, of course. And he answers the ring announcer. The ring announcer just turns it on and hands it back. And John stops for a half second, goes, "All right, got to," and then goes back to the crowd. Perfect.
Did you see
so good?
Did you see the backstage promo they did after?
I'm trying to think if I caught it. I don't think I caught it.
That's fantastic. Mox is just like pacing, and like he's on his own. He's just pacing, like blood pouring down his face. And he's like, "I want to wrestle again. I want to wrestle again." And then Claudio comes in, and he's like, "Those three men, people say they're the best in the world. The only man I'm impressed with is this guy," and points down. The camera goes down and like shows us just at Claudio's feet.
So that's a callback to the night that John cut that promo and he couldn't stay on his feet the whole time. Oh.
But then the cool thing with that is that John and Claudio then help him up to his feet and just hold him together. So I wouldn't be surprised if Shota rocks up in BCC.
He can work. Part of their gimmick is part of their shtick is they're excellent workers. I mean,
and he's another like young talent like Yuta, where they've only really got like Yuta who they're molding for the future, and that the whole thing is they're like, we're gonna make the future of like the future generation of killers. Well, Shota's already like he's already more or less there, but get him in BCC, add that a little bit more of an edge to him.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris, with a K. Yeah, dude, I love Shota or Shooter. Love it. Reese says it's funny. I do not like deathmatch type stuff, but there is something about Moxley. I don't know what it is. Moxley's living his best life. Yeah. Had Mox stayed in the other company, Jay, just reflect with me for a moment on how much we would have missed had he never left. How many amazing moments, great matches. I mean, for him not just as a performer, as a man, to have said, I did that, I got to do that, I got to do that. None of that happens had he stayed in the other company.
I mean, you've just got to think that first year, how exciting it was. Moxley just showing up like on the indies and showing up wherever he felt like. And I remember like just before like the pandemic really kind of like come into effect. There was, or was it? No, it wouldn't have been actually. Sorry, it was just after they started bringing fans back to shows where he's showing up in GCW and attacked Nick Gage. And it was like, oh well, I didn't see that coming, but now I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Like even the 4th of July New Japan show, El Desperado called out Moxley for another death match at the 4th of July show, and Moxley and Homicide against Despy and somebody. But I think as well, like one thing that really goes kind of unsaid is if it wasn't for Moxley like doing what he was doing, it opened the door for so many other guys to do the same thing. And I'm not talking about leaving WWE and like pastures new. I'm talking about just showing up wherever the hell they want, wrestling whoever the hell they want, and them having like the kind of sort of the drawing appeal of that. Like John Moxley, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm just picking up another indie date. It was, oh my god, John Moxley's here. Who's he gonna fight?
Yep.
And like John Moxley was the first, but now there's a couple of other people who just show up on the indies. Like, what? And it really has kind of like he said in that first promo in AEW, this is a paradigm shift, and it was. No true word was spoken that night.
100%.
Yeah, John Moxley's like needs to get his flowers. Really does.
And dude, in his book, he puts over. If you could sit here and guess one match that he lists as one of his personal all-time favorites, you may never guess it. It was the one against Yuji Nagata.
Yeah.
He lists that as one of his personal all-time. I'm like, that match doesn't happen had he stayed in the other company with the potted plant. I'm just saying.
You could see though, like did you see the documentary they put out when he was like training to come back from injury? And you could see how like frustrated he was, not just with the injury, with everything. Like,
yes,
he was trying to train, and there was a guy putting like a camera in his face, and he was just like, I don't want that. I just want to train. I just want to be back to wrestling. And you could see like that's all he cares about. Like, wasn't about the money, because he apparently got offered like a contract that meant he probably wouldn't have had to work another day in his life. It was just about he wanted to go out and wrestle in as many places as he could, and wrestle as many different guys as he could. I mean, he's been feuding with Japan for the last 3 years. Wouldn't have got that.
Never. Sandy says maybe with Triple H in charge would be different. My friend, you are welcome to believe that. I disagree.
I disagree. I think it's more about Moxley wanting to go to different places and traveling.
Yeah. Than
it is, and not traveling with WWE, like traveling to different companies and being like an old school territories kind of guy, like Terry Funk, going around to every like different territories and just tearing it up.
Yeah.
Like that's what Mox seems to be really interested in.
He is, and he should. And you know what? At this point in your life, you've already done everything. Yeah. I mean, you've made a lot of money. I mean, if you're still healthy and you can still go, then why not go out there and enjoy the rest of it on your own terms? I mean, we should all be so lucky.
Yeah.
Well, kids, there you have it for the regular show today. We're at the top of the hour. We're going to do a few open floor questions before we take it home, because it's late in the day for our co-host here today. So, Ray, you better not have split. Ray's not split.
It is, although I did have a nap before this, so I was able to. He's straight in.
Look, he can't wait. NWA or Cypress Hill, and part 2, Nas or LL Cool J. And if Adam Cole came to your house and invited you and family to a director's cut edition of Spider-Man with unlimited snacks and coffee and said you can bring a friend, could I join? Later, want to take you out for garden salad and Beyond Burgers, could I join as well? Yes, you can join on both, and I will say NWA and Nas.
Oh, I'm going to say... No, I'm with you, actually, NWA and Nas. And, absolutely can join Ray
Nice.
on both.
Nice. Ray, you never cease to disappoint. I was going to say you never cease to disappoint. That's a terrible thing to say. You never disappoint. How about that? Let's see. Sandy, you must have been late to the show, my friend. We led the show with Iron
We
Sheik
did.
today. Absolutely, yeah. Jeff, you missed this too. Man, everybody just like tuning in and out on me today. Yeah, we talked about
no.
Cole and MJF being clunky at best, right?
No, we spoke about Cole and Jericho. We didn't talk about Cole and MJF.
Never mind, Jeff. I'll put this back up there.
I thought the promo was really, really, really good.
16 and a half minutes.
Yeah. It reminded my only I say criticism like it's a bad thing, but it was very similar to the MJF and Punk promo. Like the first one where MJF was like tearing the back out of Punk and Punk was just sat there like, oh yeah, okay. And then straight up went into it. But the difference was obviously Adam Cole then did his whole like better like what was it? Oh yeah, you're going on about my body. Let's go backstage and like pee in a bottle and see who's got the real body and all that. I was like, wow, okay. He's not holding back. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think that'll be a fantastic match as well.
I think it will. Cole's a little dude. If you've met Cole in person, you know he's a little dude. Got a picture of me and him and my kid, and I am the biggest dude in that picture, for sure. But no one can argue with his talent, his ability to cut a promo. He seems like a good dude as well. Doing this for the right reasons. He was a breath of fresh air when he got there. I mean, he continues to be one of the coolest guys, I think. Cole just seems like somebody you want to hang out with. It's just because he's cool. You know what I mean? Let's see. Tim says, Jay, top 5 UK wrestlers of all time.
Oh, damn. There's a lot of really good ones, like, at the moment. So, all time, though. I mean, gotta say Regal. Gotta say Dynamite Kid. I think Ospreay belongs in that argument. He's very, very good. Two more. Pac and Davey Boy.
You put Davey Boy that high?
Yeah. More because more not so much like the work, although he was very good. More just because of the kind of like impact he had and like the character, and he had the it factor, didn't he? Like he had like that intangible. It is 11 p.m. Damn.
Sandy, thank you for watching, my friend.
Thanks, Sandy.
Faye says I'm crazy small and make Cole look like his build, height, and WWE. Well,
that is true.
In pro wrestling, Faye, we add a few inches to the height and a few pounds to the waist. They were billing Barry Windham back in the day at 250 pounds from Sweetwater, Texas. And I'm like, 250 pounds, you say? Barry Windham wasn't close to being 250 pounds. We're talking about when he was as skinny as his brother Kendall. And that was skinny. Now, Barry eventually got to 250, was toned. But for the longest, I'm like, 250? Really? Okay. So, yeah.
That's the target weight, not the actual weight.
Well, there you go. Yeah. It's kind of like when you announce attendance. How many do we have? 20,000? 30,000. 30,000 then. We had 30,000 fans. All right. Okay. Yeah. Bluff it up. Let's see here. Sure, Shane said, congratulations, Jake Snake Roberts. Heard he was remarrying Cheryl, his ex-wife of 25 years. She was the one who slapped Rick Rude. Remember that face turn?
On his tights?
Yeah, remember that face turn that night when she was in the crowd? That was fun.
Yeah. Jake's awesome.
He is. By the way, here's some recommended viewing, kids. You guys know I don't really do Dark Side of the Ring that much because I don't like to focus on bad stuff. I just don't. But the Magnum TA episode is really, really
any of the new ones, yeah.
I will recommend number 2, Magnum TA. It is great. It's really good. Can't stress enough to people, if you've never seen Magnum or heard his story, This notion of, well, if only we could have challenged WWF and Hulk Hogan, a lot of that's nonsense. Okay. Because it was the rise is going to happen regardless of what Crockett or anyone else did. But I'm going to tell you right now, it would not have happened to the degree of which people may have seen had Magnum stayed healthy. Magnum was everything Hogan was, except Magnum could work and work anybody and make it look good. And nobody had to feed to him. Nobody had to bump for him. And he was a workhorse. So
I've only ever seen his the cage match he had with Tully.
Oh, the I Quit match.
Oh man, it still holds up.
Dude, there's a promo.
That much.
There's a promo he and Dusty cut in the studio show, 605. And they had just gotten a tussle with somebody in the ring and they're out of breath. That promo, there's a reason why people believe wrestling was real. Because, dude, if you watch that promo, you're like, they're legitimately pissed off. Like, they're real, and they're not. But, like, he was so good. And, of course, you got Dusty as your mentor, for crying out loud. How can you go wrong? So, there you go. Tim's trying to get cheeky with his... By the way, Tim, it's 6 M, not 6 a.m. I appreciate you, but it's 6 M podcast. Got to get the brand right there, dude. About the 2000-2001 76er season in part 2, if you had lunch with Dr. J, the Beatles, and Kazuchika Okada, and it came to your house, what will you serve them to eat? Tim, you are swinging for the fences trying to compete with Ray, dude. I'm telling you. We did Allen Iverson on the show, man. So we've already covered that season. Ooh. You got anything for that, Tim?
I don't know who Dr. J is.
What? NBA legend.
Right, okay. The Beatles, you've got 2 vegetarians there, so you'd have to kind of temper it in for them, wouldn't you? I probably wouldn't have the Beatles round, to be fair.
Well, that's true.
Maybe George.
Let's see. Okada, you'd have to serve him something. If I'm certain, it had to be something all-American. Had to be something to... Let me show you the best of what we got here, pal. Probably hot dogs.
Apparently he likes them.
What's that?
Apparently he likes In-N-Out burgers.
Oh, I've never had an In-N-Out burger in my life. I've never had one. There's not one around here where I live.
I've had In-N-Out. It's good. They're good burgers. Donnie wasn't lying.
No? Good. Good. I just got that.
I will look him up, Jeff.
Dr. J was one of the best of all time. Legend NBA, for sure. The only ones still with us are Paul and Ringo, Chris with a K. Paul and Ringo.
Ringo's dead in Liverpool.
How'd that happen?
Don't worry about it.
That's good.
So I'm just having a look, see if there's anything.
Shane says, how about a 6M podcast of Magnum TA versus Nikita? I feel like that'd be more of a main event episode, a main event focus on, that's something to try. We've never done that before.
Yeah.
All right, kids. We're probably going to go take this home now and get to my evening and let Jay get some sleep at some point here. Jay, before we call it a day, why don't you tell the good kids out there where they can find you and your show?
I am part of the Untitled Wrestling Podcast. You can find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're putting quite a lot of more stuff out on YouTube. Tom guested on my fantasy booking AEW All In episodes this week. It was a very fun show to record. Season 2 is going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks, and it's going to be SummerSlam, so that's nice. We also put content out on Thursdays and Fridays as well on YouTube. And you can find us on Twitch, Twitter, and Discord at Untitled Rest Pod, and Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Untitled Wrestling Podcast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jay, thanks as always, my friend, for hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
We're going to part of the furniture here.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, it could be my regular Friday co-host whenever he's available. We're going to have him on.
Trying to take over Phil for appearances.
That's right. Oh, dude, you got a long way to go.
I know.
Man, what started out with me and Phil is, Phil when he talks, he's down here, and he's kind of real chill. And at first he's telling me, I don't know. I'm not really a podcast guy. And then now look at him. I had a hand in making him a star. Small part. So there you go. Jay, thanks again, dude. We'll be in touch.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, man.
All right. There's Jay Luft, kids. Speaking of kid, look who showed up. Get down here, boy. The boy's here. Look here. The second you show up, people being nice to you. See that? I think I see the boy. See here? You got fans. My boy got fans, man. All right, kids. Well, there's what we got. We're getting out of here. We're going to get to our weekend. Everybody have a great weekend out there. We got some serious wrestling action coming up the next 2 weeks. We just mentioned the 6M podcast. Faye, my dear, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. Very cool of you to do so. Let's have you on the show sometime if you want. Totally cool with me. Let's put over the 6M podcast. Movies, music, Marvel, magazines, miniseries, and more. It's a geek culture / pop culture podcast. Whatever we want to talk about, it's all fair game. We try to make it fun. We talk about everything, man. If you want to get just a glimpse of what the show looks like, what it is we talk about, this past Tuesday just put out a review of The Longest Yard. The week before that was the Big Lebowski watch-along commentary with Jay and Ben from the Untitled Wrestling Pod. The week before was Superman Returns, The Terminator, The Hangover Part 3, Paul is Dead from the Beatles Folklore, Solo: A Star Wars Story, The Blueprint 3 by Jay-Z. You see where I'm coming from? It's a mixed bag, baby. Everything you could possibly imagine that's fun to talk about, we've included on the 6Ms. It's prohibited me from doing any other podcast because everything fits as an M. Okay? So there you go. That's what I got for you, kids. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being patient from last week. We will see you next time. Everybody have a great weekend. Much love to you. Thanks much. Thanks again, folks. See you next time. Tom Clark's Main Event. Good night, Facebook.